Hello, welcome back to section 6 of this course of your Django Mastery course. We're going to have to look at API authentication and full CRUD operations. You're going to learn to secure your API with authentications and also implement the create, the read, update, and delete operations. So by the end of this section, you're expected to know how to authenticate your API endpoint and set certain permissions across your endpoint. Right. So right now, from what the initial endpoint you created to list all the posts within your database, you will notice that there is a little flaw with it such that anybody can actually access it. Maybe that's what you want, but how about cases where you want some resources restricted to only authenticated users, or simply put, logged in users? So we would want a secure API, and that's just what we're going to implement in this section. Now let's understand a bit what authentication and permission is. Now authentication simply means who are you? It's like going to a place or a security place that requires verification, and then you're asked to provide your ID card. The ID card you're providing is your authentication that proves or shows who you are, while your permission is having gotten your ID card, we've verified your identity, we've given your login credentials. What are you allowed to do? What can I do with my ID? So this is for access control, to resource access, and for role-based permissions. That's for different things that you need to allocate different permissions to. Imagine creating a post on a platform which should only be restricted to certain group of persons, maybe the admin or the super user. This is where you talk about permissions. So permission is like checking the ID. Does this ID give you access to what you're trying to access? So this is the clear demarcation between authentication and permission. So let's get right into it and set up our authentication. Now there are different kinds of authentication in Django REST framework. There is your token authentication, there's JWT authentication, there's session authentication, but for the purpose of this section, we're going to use token authentication. Right, so let's get right into the code. The first thing is that we're going to our settings, and then we're going to include REST frameworks auth token. Having included your REST frameworks auth token, you would want to run your migration, or you want to migrate the migration files within the app. Manage.py migrate. Okay, we're having an error. No module named REST framework .authtoken.post. This is because there is no comma here. So once we add a comma there, we have our migration files applied to our database. Now, having done that, the next thing to do to start using our authentication or permission, we're going to add REST framework here, and then with that we add our default authentication classes and our default permission classes. So for authentication classes, we're going to use our REST framework authentication token authentication. We also want to add right, so let's proceed to add permission default permission classes, and which is going to be REST framework.permissions.is authenticated, or going to have is authenticated or read only. This means if the user is not authenticated to trying to access any resource, it should be a read only, or the user should be authenticated. Right, so with this we've been able to set up basic requirements to have a REST framework, process authentications, and also permissions. We've run our migration. Now we can actually have to access our API via authentication. Now do take a quick quiz and get back to the course.